Okay, I've seen a lot of people doing copper tones on naturally dark hair, bleaching out their whole head, and I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do a full bleach out. So for today's service, we're going to use Schwarzkopf Balm with 20 volume and Olaplex. You guys know that I don't do much sectioning for my clients, but I do just set the hair aside. So I'm pulling away the front pieces and I'm just pinning up the rest of the hair. I'm actually going to go through and take some really large sections and we're just going to do some surface painting. Now you guys know what we're going to be doing for this whole service, which is just surface painting. So I'm going to go into a few key factors that affected this service. The first thing is when my client messaged me, she said that she wanted more of a cowboy copper color. So when I went to go buy my color, I bought some like more neutral coppery tones, something to have like a copper but mute it down so it's a little bit more of a brown copper. For anybody that is in the same age range as me, 40 or above or 35, 30, whatever, and you don't understand the lingo of the younger generation, copper or cowboy copper is essentially just like a muted copper. It's not like a bright, intense copper. It's definitely like a brown copper. And that's like what is more trendy right now. So my client went to another stylist and wanted a bright copper but was told that she couldn't have that. And so the stylist ended up giving her like a brownish copper tone. My client wasn't happy with that, so she tried doing like a brighter copper tone on her hair. And I think that's probably why through her ends look a little bit darker and then like closer up to her roots it's a little bit lighter of a color. She has some really inconsistent colors going on in her hair, lots of dark splotchiness going on. So I think that ultimately, after a consultation, my client said that what she really wanted was like a really intense copper, like orange color. And so that kind of shifted our overall goal because I wanted to be able to give her something that she really wanted, not just what somebody said she couldn't have. So they settled for like the muted down copper because I felt like there's no reason why she can't have an intense copper. That stylist probably just didn't know how to achieve that goal for her. So we're going to talk about our next step. Because she wanted a super bright copper tone, I decided to do a strand test at the beginning of the service to see could we really go through and lighten her hair everywhere, like a full bleach out. She didn't have a budget. She understood that this would be quite expensive, so she was okay with going through and doing a full bleach out on her hair if her hair was able to handle that part of the process. We did some strand tests in different areas of her hair and they were kind of weak, but I was determined to give my client what she wanted, so I figured the best way that we could go about this is maybe not doing a full bleach out, instead doing the service that we're doing right now, an open air surface painted balayage. That way I could keep an eye on it. It's not gonna like be insulated and over processed. So that's what we decided to do. I decided that if I could go through and do some really large surface painted balayage pieces, then maybe we could get her some lightness in her hair that will be able to give her that brighter copper tone that she's wanting. Also, I'm hoping that this will kind of try to even out the canvas a little bit because she does have a lot of uneven patchiness and darker pieces in her hair. I'm hoping that this will help brighten up her hair so that way we can get her that color that she's wanting. As I'm getting closer to the front of her face now, I'm actually going to do some full saturation in these pieces because I want her to have that extra like bang and like that extra pop of color that she's wanting, that super intense copper color. So I'm going to go through and I'm still going to do basically like feathering up into her root, but through the midsection and ends, I'm going to do full saturation so that way she can have that extra intense copper showing through like around her face. Because of this service that we're doing, which technically I feel like would be a color correction, I feel like it's really important to say that if we're not comfortable as a hairstylist to do a service, I don't think it's fair to the client and to future stylists that might run into that client to say that, oh, your hair can't do that. There's lots of services that I'm not like the best at, like fashion colors or like holographic, like rainbow colors, like maybe like a perm or updos. Like those are services that like I know that I cannot do the best job for you, so I will happily recommend you to go to somebody else. So I think as stylists we need to start saying that I can't do that job, but I know that somebody can. Because if we tell somebody that they can't have that or your hair can't do that, chances are they're going to try to go home and do it themselves, which is just going to create more issues. So just be fair to the client and just say like, you know what, this just isn't in my field of expertise, but there's actually a stylist that does a really good job of this, and I think they could do a better job for you. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, that's going to get you into some problems because normally we will, because I'm guilty of this too, where like I've known in the past, like, I don't know if I can accomplish that goal, or I don't know if their hair can do that. And maybe they really couldn't achieve that goal, but I still wanted to make them happy. So I was going to try to do it anyways. Then in the end, they were unhappy because it wasn't what they wanted. And it was something that I knew that I personally couldn't achieve. So let's just own up to what we can and cannot do. Like I think it's totally okay to say like, hey, maybe somebody else can do a better job of that than I can, or maybe your hair's just not capable of doing that right now, but let's figure out something else that we can do to make you happy. That would be like a happy medium. So anyways, that's just like my rant for the day. So in these pieces around her hairline, we're going to go up closer to her roots just to try to get that a little bit more brighter around her face. She did originally want like a bright blonde money piece, and I told her that there was no way that was going to happen. Her hair was too damaged to be able to give that to her. Also, it wasn't going to be blonde. It was going to be more of like a yellow tone because of that pre-existing red that's in her hair. So just because we can't bleach her out and give her that bright money piece, I want to at least try to give her that intense copper around her face. So here's her full application. I'm just putting this foil on top to help it insulate a little bit more to promote some heat. That way it processes along with the rest of her hair. And this is just going to sit for 30 minutes. And now that she's all washed out, you can see that that blended really nicely. We have some brighter pieces that are in her hair. So this should help intensify that color a little bit that she's wanting. Okay, so I'm getting ready to mix my overall color, her root color, and the color she was trying to show me before was kind of like a toned down, like copper brown color. So originally I got 6RO and 6NB, which the NB is like a neutral blonde, and I was gonna do about half and half to like give this more of a toned down coppery color. But when we started doing her hair, she was thinking that she wanted to do like a lighter coppery color. That's why we went through into like the balayage to try to brighten it up a little bit. We were initially thinking that we would like paint through all of her hens to try to brighten it up, but I did a strand test and it felt like it was maybe not in the best condition to do a full bleach out. So I thought if we just do like an open air balayage, I can keep an eye on it. We're not doing a heavy amount, and then we'll also get some like dimensional pieces and some brighter pieces in through there. So I feel like we're not at a point yet where I can do too much lighter than what her overall base is. But I think what she's liking is the brightness of the copper. So I think I am going to mix the 6RO with the 6NB, but I also have an 8RO too. The red, orange, blonde, just to maybe brighten it up slightly. Just so it, I think I'm just gonna add a smidge, just a smidge, to make it more like, I know it's not gonna be 8, I think it will add more of like a 7 tone, level 7 in there with the 6. So maybe like it will be like a 6.5, 7 with adding the level 8 to it. I also have this warm copper blonde. So I need to go back and talk to her and see like, do you want it? Because the picture that I showed her was like more vibrant, like definitely like red coppery tone, or does she want it to be more of like the toned down version? So I'm gonna go talk to her. And if she wants it to be more of like the toned down version, then I'm gonna do the majority of the 6WC, the warm copper blonde. But if she wants it to be brighter, more vibrant, then I'm gonna do the 6RO. Okay, bye. Okay, I just went to go talk to her and I asked her, and she does want to be on the more like vibrant coppery side. So I think I'm gonna change my formulation up a little bit more. I do have this 8C because she wants to feel more copper than she feels red. So I'm gonna dig through my stuff and see what I can find. And then I'll show you guys what I come up with at like when all is said and done. Okay, half of my formulation is the 8C, and then a quarter of the 6RO, and then a quarter of the 6WC. So I'm filling like with the 30 volume, this should bring her to a nice level 7 intense copper. Literally scrambling to find any color that I can to give her what she wants, because remember the color that she showed me when she messaged me was like a muted down copper. So that's why I'm like struggling to find colors that will give her that bright intense copper. So for this, we're just going to go through and do essentially like a root retouch application. This is going to sit and process, and then we're going to go through after we're done with this part of the service, and then we're going to comb through it and apply through the ends. But first, we're just going to do her roots. By the way, apologizing a million times for this glare that's coming through. It's like been hours and hours now at this point. And so at this time of day, the sun is like making its way over and it makes this horrific glare. So I apologize ahead of time. I want to point out, because I just did like half the application on the other side of the head, and then I switched to this other side, and then I'm doing this part of the application before I finish the other side. And that's because sometimes it can take a few minutes to do the application. Like, what if like 8 minutes go by and you're doing that whole half of the head, and then you're starting on the other side of the head? Well, I feel like some of that lifting power might die down for the whole like 45-minute processing time. So I like to kind of stagger back and forth and just do a little bit on one side off of the part and then go through and do the other side of the part, because I want to make sure that both of those sides have equal lifting and processing time to make sure that the color comes out nice and even. Like when I see people do root shadows and they do a whole half of the head, even around the hairline and the top like money piece section and whatever, and then they like go through and do the whole other side after that side's already been processing for like 10-15 minutes. You don't know the anxiety that causes me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that side is so much darker? So if you see me jump back and forth, that's why. All right, now we have this through her roots, so she's going to process for 30 minutes. Okay, now we're going to go through and do the same application with the same color formulation and everything, just not 30 volume, just 20 volume. And we're going to go drag this through her ends. I'm gonna tell you guys something that in this front section, I did add a little bit more of that level 8 copper because I wanted to have a little bit more intensity in this front section that she was wanting. So if your client wants to have like more intensity, you can add more of like a copper tone to it. If not, then just, you don't have to add like those extra coppery tones in the formulation if you don't want to. Now that we have this all throughout her whole hair, her roots, her ends, she's going to process for another 25 minutes. And I like to make sure that this has the full processing time possible. All right, so right here, I'm just showing her that this is about how light we were able to get her roots and through her ends. And I just want to make sure that she's happy with the color before I go through and like do all the like drying and styling. But she's definitely excited about the color and said it was perfect. All right, so here we are at the end. I'm very happy with her hair and she's super happy with it too. I think if I could have started with like an even canvas virgin hair, we could have gotten her like a super intense orangey level 8 copper that she was wanting. But because she had that pre-existing color that was sitting at like a level 5, we could only lift her up like 2 levels. So I'm really happy with the way that this color turned out. Look at that intense copper that's around her face that we were able to give her. She's definitely so happy with this color. I love the way that this turned out. It's definitely a lot brighter, more of a lighter color too. She was more of like a level 5 when she came in, and I'm glad that we were able to get her to like closer to a level 7 intense copper. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys like this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.